Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Curriculum Committee of the Board. Today is May 13th. Would like to check to see if there's any public comment on tonight's agenda. Seeing none, let's pass it over to Mrs. Grigaitis. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Marino, as well as our board and community. We are here tonight for our final Curriculum Committee of the Board meeting for the year. That was quick. So we have a packed agenda for us, and this evening, we're going to hear from some of our colleagues and conferences that they have attended. If you recall, last year we had done some conference share-outs throughout the year with our curriculum meetings, and we were asked to celebrate our great leaders in the district on one evening, so that is tonight. So we'll be hearing not from all of our attendees that went to conferences, but we've selected some great ones that we would like to share with the board and the community. We are also going to review some of our state-mandated professional development requirements. Again, these are not all the professional development opportunities we provide in our district, but the ones that PDE does require that we have. We think that's important for you to hear. And we are also going to review our curriculum cycle, which we do at the end of every year so that you are aware of where we're going and where we have been. And then lastly, we have one conference request for the end of the evening. So without further ado, at this time I would like to introduce, or actually I'm going to have our supervisors and leaders introduce the dedicated teachers who have demonstrated their leadership and commitment to continuously growing, actively participating in conferences, events, and professional development opportunities this past year. We have asked them to come and share with the board and with our community specifically what they have learned during these events, how this has been applied to teaching and learning, and then most importantly, how it has benefited our students. So we are going to be very interested in this, and without further ado, Karen Burke is going to introduce our first participant.
Good evening, everybody. Beth Lynch, our college counselor at the high school, participated in multiple events at various colleges and universities across the country. Tonight, she will share with you how these visits have enhanced our support offerings to students at PW. So, Beth, the floor is yours, and the mic.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
Is there a way to get up here?
No.
Okay, that's the best I've got. Okay, yeah, no worries. That's all right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I wanted to come and share some of the wonderful opportunities that I have as the college counselor. This is my 6th year serving the Plymouth White Marsh High School community. And one thing that is starkly different from my experiences as a school counselor is actually being able to get out and see college campuses. So I have the good fortune, you'll see in this picture, I have a Syracuse sweatshirt on, but I got invited to Syracuse this February along with NC State this February. There are actually all expense paid counselor fly-ins that the colleges host. And I've been very fortunate to be invited to many. The ones that are in the orange kind of color up there were all expense paid, invite only events over the past 6 years. Others were just either visits I did on my own or day visits. But we all know the phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, I would argue that a college visit is worth 1,000,000. I preach to the students all the time, try to get out on campuses as much as you can. Certainly, we try to get students out on campuses when we can, especially with the AVID program. I just had the pleasure of bringing a group of seniors over to Montgomery County Community College. So I think these on-campus events really speak volumes to what our students are going to get, both educationally and personally at the next level. And so whether it's going into a chamber where you can hear absolutely nothing, where I was at NC State, where they test out drone sounds and things like that, to seeing the cadaver lab at the University of Delaware, I've gotten to really get a hands-on sense of what our students and what quality educations our students are going to get when they move on to the college level. So part of that is finding your fit. And I always talk with students about finding their fit. And I feel like when I'm on a college visit, I do the same exact thing. I'm thinking about it from the lens of the student. How are they going to fit in socially or personally there? Especially like I'm observing students on campus. How do they greet each other? How are they interacting? Can I find them? Are they visible on a campus? I also get a good sense of, is this a diverse campus? What kind of diversity is on this campus? And I also, when we're in these fly-ins, and I'll show you an agenda, which is like in probably micro print up here, but they have us packed schedule from 12, for 12 hours usually, from 7:30 in the morning until 8:30 at night, sometimes with a very small break for dinner. But they're having us meet with student organizations on campus. They're having student panels present to us. They're having us go on tours. So I'm really getting to engage with the student body there, as well as with professors and deans who are speaking to the counselor visits. Obviously, students want to get an education. They want outcomes for that education. So the academic fit and the outcomes fit is always very apparent when I'm on a campus. You get a better sense of class sizes when you're physically there. I got to attend a computer science class, intro level at Bucknell a few years back. I am not a math person. So the fact that I walked out of there understanding what they were talking about said a lot about how they're working with their younger students and helping them get to where they want to be. And certainly I had a sense of the teacher-student relationships or the professor-student relationships from some of these visits where I've been able to get into the classroom, or I've heard from, we spoke with the head of Maxwell School of Citizenship at Syracuse, who was wonderful and talked about all the different opportunities that students have, not only in the classroom, but also out in internships and whatnot. And I'm always in the back of my head going, how affordable is this going to be for our students in reality? Especially these out-of-state visits that I go on. So I'm always trying to think about fit when I'm visiting these campuses. And this is a typical day that I had at NC State. We woke up very early. We went to the College of Textiles. We went to the College of Engineering. We had an admissions talk during lunch, so we were learning about the statistics, the trends, and things like that. We learned about the Park Scholarship Program, again, affordability, what kind of opportunities will our students have to cut costs. And then we did a library tour. It felt like I was at Google headquarters there. It was really state-of-the-art. They were showing us all of the different technology and resources that students have access to. We got a rooftop view of campus from the greenhouse in the plant sciences tour. And then we moved on to life sciences before we wrapped up the day with more of the like socializing with colleagues part of the day. And honestly, that's the most influential, beneficial part for me because I'm building relationships with colleagues from other high schools. I was attending with someone who's at the Mount. I've had plenty of overlap with Wissahickon, with Upper Merion, and some other colleagues. And the benefit to that is that these are folks I get to know in a much more intimate way on these visits. And then we have a text thread. Okay, what are you guys hearing about this? Who's the contact for this college this year? Because there's so much turnover in admissions. So there's a lot of networking occurring as well, in addition to gathering information for our students. And I wanted to give it some specific examples about my Syracuse and NC State tour. I'm always trying to do live kind of Instagram posts for our community when we are in a certain college on a university campus so they can see the pictures, right? So the textile school at NC State had beautiful fabrics that were student made and they were loomed on these giant machines and it started off as thread, right? So seeing how these students are taking these basic elements and turning them into art essentially was really cool. So I was sharing notes with our art teachers while I was sitting there. I was putting things on Instagram so that our community could see it. And then also, I had the opportunity at Syracuse to speak with the different colleges. So when we're there, they try to bring everyone to us. And we basically did a mini college fair to learn about, okay, the architecture program's really looking for these classes in a prospective student. We want drawing classes. CAD's great, but drawing's better kind of thing. So you learn those kinds of nuances too when you're visiting these campuses. So ultimately what it comes down to is I'm building relationships with the colleges themselves, the admissions counselors at the colleges. I'm building relationships with other secondary school counselors who I'm learning a lot from. We're sharing out our best practices for various processes, whether it's admissions, college app help, how we do our college rep visits. All of those things look very different depending on the size of the school and location of the school. So I love hearing from my colleagues that are honestly coming from across the country and across the world. When I was at the University of Delaware last spring, I was invited and the international counselors were there as well. So I learned a lot about certain programs that our students don't usually have exposure to. So that was really cool. But again, I'm gathering a lot of information, and I love being able to sit in individual meetings with students and say, yo, I have these awesome pictures, these awesome notes, and I share out my notes from these visits. I'm doing live docs as I'm going. And I also love being able to say, like, their food was awesome, or the dorms were really basic, or they were really fancy, right? So being able to kind of give the student a little bit of a sneak peek into what they're going to expect on a visit through my experiences has been really great too. And I love the opportunity to advocate for our students. So I wouldn't know the reps as well as I do from a lot of these college visits if it weren't for these experiences. And so then when students have a situation where they need a question answered, or they're on a wait list and I need to advocate for them, I have a person who knows me that I know, and we can have an honest conversation about that. So, it definitely helps with the collaboration with the college side, having very transparent conversations from the beginning to the end of the admissions process as well. So these are just a few of the pictures from a few of my trips. So they show us anything from the recreation buildings to the esports lounge. That's what this dark dim lit place is here. All the way to allowing us to, hear from the president of the university. So the picture on the right is David R. Harris. He's the president of Union College up in upstate New York, and he had a Philly connection. So a lot of us were in the crowd wooing when he said Philadelphia area. But I love these visits. I feel like I'm a lifelong learner. I finished my second master's degree 7 years ago, but I have not stopped learning since, because I've had such a great opportunity in this role as the college counselor to learn about all these colleges and help our students learn about them too. So thank you for allowing me to go on these trips.
We thank you, Beth.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Look to see what, I thought I had a loud mouth. Do you ever look to see what former PW students are at the schools when you go?
Yes.
And do you get to follow up with them?
Yes.
So I guess the overall question is, how much follow-up do we do with former students who attend universities to see, like, what was it a match? How did PW do with, like, preparing you for your program, that kind of thing?
It's very anecdotal right now currently, so we don't do a lot of data collection. There are some districts that have like a service that they'll use. It's for fee service. But it's funny you say that. I did want to mention that. So on my Syracuse visit, I reached out to a lot of our alums ahead of time and said, I'm going to be on campus. Let's get together. We had a senior, 2 juniors, and a freshman. I just so happened to not be able to get a hold of the senior, but I ran into her on campus. I was like everywhere I went on campus looking for people. I ran into her. She had a very unique selective major. She's had an amazing experience. She's had 3 internships. She's studied abroad. She's done internships for Sony, I think. Like, she was more of a music production person. Saw one of our freshmen there on the Jumbotron at the Syracuse basketball game. Got to speak with him in person on campus as well. He's thriving. I do get to see them when I'm on campus, which is great. But yeah, right now, all of that information is really anecdotal. It's the emails, like when they want to transfer. Tell me what you didn't like, right? Or it's those conversations when I am visiting a campus or when they're back visiting us.
So I have two other kind of sub-questions. One would be also following up with students who may have had a 504 plan or an IEP and see, like, was that a match? Did their services help in any way?
Right.
And the other question is, with kids at, like, Monco, right? We have a gym right in our backyard. And there are some kids who say, oh, I'm not going to community college. It's not good. You know, like they don't think it's good enough or they don't know what to do. Do we keep a profile of the kids that go to Monco, where they go from Monco? Like, so, you know, Monco has all these agreements with other colleges. And can we say, oh, we have, you know, 5 PW students who went from Monco to Drexel and look how much money they saved, or they went here or they went there? Because I don't think, especially seniors that like aren't sure what they want to do, if they go to Monco, they still don't know what the possibilities might be outside of that because they don't look at the big picture necessarily. So
Right. Yeah, so I don't have that data, but Ian, who's my contact at Montgomery County Community College, I'm sure does, so I can connect with him. And I feel like Monco, again, you're saying it's a gem. It's absolutely a gem. And I think it's become much more part of the everyday conversations that I have, regardless of if a student's 4-year college ready or not, because it's affordable and it's a great starting point. And I have a nephew who's a product of community college transferring to Temple, saved himself a lot of money. So I talk about that a lot in my junior social studies presentations. Big fan of Monco. Yeah. Any other questions?
I just have, I'm sorry, just one real quick. Thank you for networking, for advocating, for exposing our students to so many different options. You mentioned a lot with the out-of-state, and of course, sometimes it might be tricky to get to out-of-state places. Do out-of-state colleges or do colleges and universities in general offer a really in-depth, like, virtual experience for students these days? And
since COVID, yes.
Okay.
I think that's one of the better things to come out of COVID was the opportunity for students to engage virtually with campuses, whether that was a virtual tour or an online session, you know, with a specific college. But yes, they absolutely have the option to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
How are you?
Hi. I attended one of your lynch nights, I think, not too long ago. It was very informative, thank you. I have a 10th grader. That aside, I was wondering, we have a lot of local historically black universities and colleges, Lincoln, Cheney. Are they part of some of the universities you'll be visiting or colleges as well?
So I have not been invited to any of those yet, but I would love to get out to those campuses if you're willing to work in doing that.
How does that process of invitation
So
take
I
place?
can actually initiate visits on my own. I just need to have the, you know, I don't have a budget. So like I don't have a very robust college counseling budget for that kind of travel. And I would love to be able to bring students to those kinds of trips too. I'm really kind of working with whatever I can when I go on these trips. So again, like the ones that I've been on have been fully funded by the university. The only thing that's not covered is airport parking. So I will go anywhere and everywhere if I'm able to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wilczek. Maria Wilczek is going to introduce our next group.
Yes, I'm very excited to present my 2 lovely art teachers that are here. We have Jennifer Fitzgerald and Rochelle Rocky. And you will also note that at each of your seats, you have a beautiful invitation for our upcoming art show, which is taking place this Wednesday night at Colonial Middle School. And part of what these teachers are going to be presenting to you is, in fact, what our elementary students are going to be turning out as one of the major displays that they will have for you to view at the art show this year. So it's a little bit of background about they're taking their own initiative to promote the theme for this year's show, which is enriching the world through the arts, and learning a little bit about some of the communities that come from this particular area and turning that around in the artwork that you will see this year. Ladies?
Hello, my name is Jen Fitzgerald, and I'm the art teacher at Ridge Park Elementary School. And this is Rochelle Rocky, and she's the art teacher at White Marsh Elementary. Together, we've been teaching in the district for over 25 years. Did I do that? No. I probably did. Thank you for inviting us to speak about our November professional development at the James Michener Art Museum in Doylestown. We went to see the exhibition Never Broken, Visualizing Lenape History. And it turns out it could be Lenape, it could be Lenape. There is no consensus. So if we go back and forth, that's why.
This exhibition,
That's right.
this exhibition was a combination of historical art, traditional Lenape art, and works from modern artists, Lenape artists working today. They're also called the Delaware artists, like Holly Wilson. There was a major theme that ran through the exhibition about breaking treaties and the power of art and how it was used as a tool to spin the dialogue between the European settlers and the native people. This informed us as artists and teachers of the power of art's ability to inform and to express. Along with the historical complexities, the exhibition evolved into modern and contemporary pieces made by current Native American artists. We marveled at the beauty and thought-provoking works. We were especially inspired by the weavings and baskets in the show. This became a great jumping-off point to speaking about weaving in a more meaningful way and how we can incorporate it in our own teaching. One of our state and national standards is to explore historical and cultural contexts. We can do this through weaving and other indigenous crafts and arts. It could start with a simple paper weaving that we've all done, making our placemats and our pot holders. This skill does a few things. It reinforces patterns and tactile ways, repeating over and under, over and under. Weaving also encourages fine motor skills, especially for the younger learners. Older grades may begin weaving on a loom, and it was just very interesting that the presenter before talked about textile looms, which are still part of art making. As we grow an appreciation for handmade items in the world, in this very instant gratification, it helps the students be much more a part and in the moment. As a department, we decided to incorporate a circular loom, which you can see in where the paper looms are. That's a photograph of some of the circular looms that are displayed in the show. It's also the backdrop for our invitation that you have on your table. We broke away from the traditional rectangular, although there are some rectangular looms and weavings in the show, because we were very much inspired by the baskets that we saw at the Michener Museum.
This year, we referenced the Lenape tribe and incorporated some of the local history. For example, did you know the borough beside the Schuylkill River was known as Genishaki-Hacking, which is meant Pleasant Valley, which probably is how Conshohocken got its name. To have our students imagine what the land and resources were like in the 17th century is magical. It helps the students develop empathy and higher level thinking as to how to shape this land in the future, as they are becoming the next generation of stewards of the land. It's their future decisions that will impact this area. So kind of getting in at the ground level is a great way for them just to think globally and bigger. We want to say it is a pleasure to teach art at the Colonial School District. We feel lucky to be working here at Colonial where they value the arts. Because we feel supported, it encourages us to use the community as a resource to aid us in our teaching. This allows us to make connections and use not only real-world experiences, but it's even more impactful when there's real-world experiences are local. And when you tell the kids about the Lenape Indians, those houses weren't there and they were running in this area. They cannot believe it. It's really kind of a fun exercise in imagination and what ifs and possibilities. So it's really fantastic. It's fun to share our passions with our students and about our adventures at the museum and for them to recall when they've been to an art museum. We can see it sparks an interest in all of our students connecting to educational trips that they might have made. This encourages our students to become lifelong learners. Thank you for allowing the art department the time to take advantage of all of our community has to offer. So sincerely, we thank you. We learned a lot and it invigorates us.
Most definitely. And please join us this Wednesday at 38th Middle School is the district art show. We would love to see you there. It's not only the weavings, but it's everything from K through 12. So we would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I actually have one quick question, if you
Yeah.
don't mind. I always have a question,
I think
right?
they were trying to scoot out.
I know.
Oh, no.
Just out of curiosity, and this is certainly not us saying, like, sure, we can do this, but what do you think would help to bring the arts to the next level or to the next step or wherever we're headed with arts? What do you think we need? What do you think would be supportive in your work with our students, with our community?
More art teachers, more art time. I mean, it's kind of, when they say you want to be a baseball player, it's more time on the field. It's more time in art studios, more art teachers to make the department more robust and make it more robust so our graduating students can be more competitive. I know last year I taught just one class at the high school, which I loved. It was fantastic. But some of the students I had, they want to be art majors. And I'm like, well, why are you here now? You should have been here as a freshman. And they're like, oh, I couldn't get in. So so I think that's the one thing that comes to my mind quickly.
I would agree with that.
And big budgets, always big budgets.
Yeah, of course. Of course. You can never have enough materials, right?
The only other thing I would say is just having the time to kind of build our department cross-curricularly from one grade level to the next. I mean, the PLTs allow us to do that. But from K through 12, being able to connect with the teachers so that our curriculum is really building from one skill to the next as, the students move up. But,
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Have a go.
And no pressure on our next participants at all, but we did ask everybody to limit it to 5 to 10 minutes to allow for questions for everybody, so we're not here till 10 o'clock. And they've done great, so no pressure on the next group either. So Joe, I think that's you.
Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce Katie Gear, a member of our PWHS World Languages team. She attended and presented at the PSMLA, or the Pennsylvania State Modern Language Association Fall Conference, which was Reset, Recharge, and Reconnect. In addition to being a presenter, she's also on the executive board, the executive council, rather, membership committee, professional development committee, and you also manage their social media. Yes, so she does quite a bit. She is one of the reasons that our World Language Department, both at the middle school and the high school level, are at the cutting edge, and folks come to us for advice on how to engage in best practices. So without further ado, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. I think this is my 13th year in the district. So I started at the middle school for 4 years, and then I've been at the high school since then, working with Dr. Madel, who is a joy to work with. And he's actually the one who got me into PSMLA in the capacity that I am. He encouraged me to join executive council. But anyway, so I've been presenting for them for quite a few years as well. And yeah, so our fall conference, I was able to represent as a member of our executive council, but also, like you said, I presented. But some of the sessions that I got a lot out of were calling all bibliophiles, which was all about how to use your classroom library, which our educational foundation blessed us with that. This is my second year with our library, and so it gave me so many ideas of how to incorporate it. I now have weekly first chapter Fridays. So we start every day. They know they come in. We have, depending on the level, like a certain number of minutes of independent reading. And so we started with some cognate competitions just to kind of get to know the library. And then we started reading in pairs. And then, now it's independent reading. And it's such a joy. And I have my book that I read in the beginning of class too. But yeah, it's just teaching a love for reading, and then through those readers, building our proficiency levels. Another session I did or attended was on music in the world language classroom and how to incorporate that to share some authentic uses of the language, but also just to give them some exposure to different visuals and different chunks of language. And she had a lot of really great ideas for making it more curricular instead of we're just going to enjoy the beat, but it's actually to teach certain language functions and obviously cultural things as well. I attended a session on revisiting vocabulary lists, which like, that's a huge component of what we do, but we've also been in the last few years, like getting away from your traditional like vocabulary presentation and here's our grammar list and all of those things to be more authentic and proficiency oriented. Oh, and I attended a session on social emotional learning in the language classroom. And so talking to the kids and using like a wheel of emotions in Spanish. And so like to kind of diversify their vocabulary a little bit, but also give them a chance to kind of check in with themselves, like how am I feeling in terms of energy level and happiness, and where do I fall in the thing? And I'm not just sad, maybe I'm a little depressed, or maybe I'm like really excited, or maybe I'm happy, but like, I'm just relaxed, or, like, so that was a really great session as well. And through the executive council, I hosted a little like new teacher event there. So like, it was really nice to be able to connect with some new colleagues and support them. And then also obviously like our social media and things of that nature. But so our interpretive scores are like through the roof at this point. And I think the kids are really like comfortable and also excited to read, which is I think a really cool thing. But so my session that I presented, I'm so sorry. So my session I presented was, it was based on our PLN, PLN 32, which is, it sounds, a silly title in my opinion. It's brain-based learning. Like, I don't know what other learning is not brain-based, but it's really cool. And so I was able to take like pieces of our course and kind of turn it into like, how can we really leverage all the biological processes of learning in order to make language learning that much more automatic and accessible. And so my session was chosen actually as like the best of Pennsylvania, which I'm really excited about. Thanks. And so that got me a free ticket to New York City in February. And so I presented there on behalf of our district, and then also was able to represent our state language association through some things there. And I also got to meet some of like so there's this whole like Twitterverse of world language teachers, and it's like Lang Chat, but I actually got to meet, like I had bought her book and I got to meet her, and like we got out for like dinner. Maris is so cool. But anyway, so we're like buddy now, I feel like, and that was really nice. But yeah, it's just been really great to like kind of reconnect with a circle of teachers and like these famous teachers that I only see online, and then I meet them in person. And then I also, while I was in New York, I went to a really cool DEI and world language session that talked about like, some of the things that we do can be particularly damaging. And so looking at it through that lens was like, okay, like talking about like gatekeeping and when we like present an idea of a country, like we really have to be holistic, and we should really be tackling some of the stereotypes that we know that we can bring about, like I teach Central American countries right now, and for honors we're dealing with Guatemala, and so like what do we think when we think about Guatemala? Well, here's this side of it. And so they talked about like image model lessons to kind of like challenge some of those stereotypes and make sure that there's an equitable view of the culture that we're teaching. So that was kind of all over the place. But does anyone have any questions?
I do. Do you teach your first block class?
I love my first block.
I was going to say,
semester,
it'd be
yeah.
awesome to take, because they come in half asleep, and then you got you. I mean, you're so
There's 27 in my first block, and I assure you they're all quite awake.
Your enthusiasm is contagious, so thank you.
Yeah, I just want to affirm what Chris said there as well. Your energy and your enthusiasm really affirms for us why we do these conferences, why we approve these conferences as a board. So thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, Mrs. Burke is going to continue with our introductions.
I am. The K-3 Life Skills Support Team at White Marsh Elementary School, that includes our life skills support teacher Stephanie Brennan, first grade general education teacher Sydney Evans, and speech and language therapist Dr. M.T. Sabatino, was awarded a $3,500 scholarship to attend the Helix Conference in November. Helix stands for High Expectations for Students with Low Incidence Disabilities. and they were invited to apply for the scholarship by Montgomery County Intermediate Unit vision therapist Karen Whitaker because of how well they interact as a team. So Stephanie, Sydney, and MT are here tonight to provide you with their conference takeaways. So go
Hello,
for
everyone. We're excited to be here, so thank you for this. We're just excited. We're going to keep it within the time, if that was directed at us. Like Karen said, HELIX stands for High Expectations for Low Incidence Disabilities. Really, truly, one of the only professional development opportunities that we find that takes 3 days together, and everything we're experiencing really applies to us. The population that we work with, individuals who have very, very complex needs, individuals with autism, multiple disabilities, individuals with intellectual disabilities. So there's a lot of variation within their needs. So we had an opportunity as a team of 5 that also included Michelle Cacciadorian as occupational therapist.
So as Steph was saying, our students really have a lot of different needs that require academic, behavioral, communication, self-help, functional, vision supports. We have a lot of medical needs in the classroom. And as you might imagine, this requires a lot of therapeutic professionals and educational professionals and some really specialized skills. So opportunities like this allow us to hone those skills. And obviously, because it is such a specialized population, these opportunities are rare. And it's hard to even find other professionals that have a similar experience. So this was a really great thing for us and allowed us not only to work together, but also to network with people from across the state that are kind of existing in these little pockets that we are with these very specialized populations. I think one of the next ones. Hold on.
This is the exciting part.
Yeah, so
all of it.
So yeah, Steph said we're 3 of a 5-member team. And we did get the full scholarship, which was very exciting. Here's just a couple of pictures. We got to go to some make and takes where we learned how to adapt technology and just simple things for our students on the fly. We learned a lot about literacy access for students of any level, which was really great. We learned some things about math, and then we learned a lot about adaptive materials for art and other specialists.
And it took place in Lancaster.
Yes. All right, so let's see.
Okay, so before we start the video, I was invited by the team to come along. I'm a first grade teacher, so this is my first conference, and we have a claim to fame here. We are on a podcast, so we were selected from Bataan to do this podcast. So we're going to show you a little snippet here. Right here.
Bit more about the stipend project. What has this enabled you all to do?
So we've had the opportunity for the first time ever. I'm 17 years in the career and have never had a chance to get together with regular ed and related services in a conference for the population that we're working with low incidence. And the opportunity has been amazing. We get to be here, stay here, focus on what we need to focus on, which is learning everything database to kind of put into practice in the classroom.
So you are in the special education side of things in your district, right? And Sydney, you are a general education teacher.
Yeah, first grade, which this is nice because, you know, I get to see a different world. I started out as an instructional aide in Stephanie's classroom.
Well, can we pause and celebrate that? Well, that speaks wonders to you, Stephanie.
And to Sydney as well, for sure.
Yep. So I learned a lot in that classroom. Right after I graduated, I got a job in Steph's room, and you know, seeing what occupational therapists do and speech therapists, and what Steph does, and how they all work together, it was really valuable. And then going into general education, I could take everything I learned from watching her, and you know, implement those strategies into my
That's okay.
Students with exceptionalities, but you know, first graders, they're still learning how to hold a pencil properly and how to cut with scissors. So using some of those materials in the classroom, it's a great way for, you know, those students to become familiar with what assistive technology looks like too. And, you know, okay, this student uses it, but like I can use it too. So it's really nice.
Very practical.
The miracles of universal design. How has your time been at HELIX? How is it unique? That's probably a leading question, but I know it is. I've already heard from some folks. What makes HELIX different from other professional learning that you've experienced?
Should I go first?
You go first.
This has been so great because typically most of the conferences and learning experiences that I do, whether it's in person or virtual, it's just all other communication specialists. So the fact that I got to come with the team that I work with.
I mean, you could speak to it anyway.
We'll just talk.
Yeah.
Oh.
At least it's a good snap. It is a good shot.
Yeah.
You know,
So
your
we
mouth's
just sort
on
of
it,
wrapped it
right?
up. Michelle was talking about how Michelle's the occupational therapist in our building, and she spoke to on the podcast about how it really gave us some time to reflect, not just as a team. And then I was jumping in saying that, you know, in the day to day, it's so hard, even if you do that as an individual, it's hard to find the time to sit down all together and say, like, what are we doing it? Why are we doing it? And how can we take the things that we've learned and actually improve upon it? Because we're all doing individual data review, but this is a rare opportunity that we get to do it looking at the total child. That was very valuable. We won't make this.
No. So everything that we're doing in the classroom is evidence-based practice. But essentially what happens is that there are these multiple, so many different needs and strengths from the kids. And within a classroom, you're talking about developmentally students functioning on anywhere from 6 months old to 8 years old. Maybe a little younger right now with the population we're working in a K-3 building. So what is needed is we access Pennsylvania Department of Education alternate standards and also your standards that we're all familiar with and that I'm sure you talk about here at this meeting. And what the logistical piece looks like is the 5 of us together and really taking a look for the population, the kids right now in the classroom that are in Sydney's room, that are being serviced through this programming. What does it actually look like and how realistic is it to take what we're learning and putting it right into action? We had a session that they handed us 5 Velcro strips, and then logistically, a lot of the students that we work with have physical needs to be able to access their environment, and they were very realistic about what we could do in the moment. And as we're all aware, we want to be thorough, meeting everyone's needs, being efficient, and being realistic. And as Sydney said in the video, it really is about kind of creating this environment where maybe one student needs it, but ultimately in a large group, regular education classroom, other students can access it. So it kind of normalizes these pieces as well. I'll stop there.
So regarding inclusion, our experience at this conference really reinforced our current practices. And I think that was one of our biggest takeaways, was that every session we went to, we looked at each other and we were like, wow, that's great, we're doing that. And it makes us feel good to know that we're doing the right things. So through all of these authentic experiences with their peers and inside the general education classroom setting, again, we're all collaborating on a daily basis as needs of these students can change on a day-to-day basis, but also minute to minute. So we can even communicate with a look and know that, okay, this student is coming off of the bus this way, so we need to, change our plan. So communicating is something that we're really good at, and we do it often. And from the conference, communication is key. We learned a lot about different ways to communicate with the students, with each other,
and with the families.
And with
There
the
was,
families.
a session we did about
That was the last
bringing the family in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So again, the team carefully considers each student's interests, needs, and schedule, as well as the classroom logistics. And so from arrival to dismissal, we seek to implement the students' IEP goals and supports in the environment that push their functional and social independence, while also respecting their needs and other factors.
So overall, it was a really good experience. We are hoping to attend again next year if possible. We're going to look into the scholarship thing again. We were also asked by a couple of different people that we connected with if we'd be willing to present about some of the things that we are doing specifically at White Marsh with the life population, and how we have been able to draw in students from other classrooms, general education, other special education classrooms, and really promote a feeling of community across all of the classrooms. That's it. Golden.
Questions? Speechless. I hope that's a good thing.
Wow.
All right, fair. Thank you.
Thank you for doing what you do, because of you guys, we can have children in our own schools that can learn with their peers, and it's awesome. Being a teacher in general is very challenging, but we definitely appreciate your skills and your abilities to help these kids.
Thank you. No 2 days are the same. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, I am up again. In March, gifted support teachers Stephanie Kuntz and Kendall Brody attended a gifted regional day hosted by the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit in conjunction with 4 other intermediate units, and they're here tonight to share what they learned.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Stephanie Kuntz, and I am the K-3 gifted teacher for Colonial School District. On March 19th, both my gifted colleagues, Chad Murray and Kendall Brody, and I had the pleasure of attending the MCIU Gifted Regional Conference. The MCIU, they hosted a Gifted Regional Day, and often it's been virtual for the past 5 years, so it's really been a wonderful time to have everybody come together for the first time. We had about 120 participants, and it spanned across the Delaware County IU, Chester County, Bucks County, and Colonial IU. And it was just wonderful to have both gifted teachers and administrators there. And the best part of it was a lot of open sessions where you could choose to go. There was a lot of open discourse as well, which is not something you often get. And it was just wonderful. So I put a lot of the participant feedback that we got back from the MCIU that they shared with us. But speaking personally, what works best for us and how we utilize this in Colonial, it's always important to me to remind people that gifted students are gifted at all times of the day and should be appropriately challenged no matter where their education is happening. I always say gifted students are one or among the most misunderstood, overlooked, inadequately taught learners in our classrooms. This tends to be the case because others think that they are okay on their own or where they are at, but okay isn't good enough. Helen Keller always stated, one can never consent to creep when one feels an impulse to soar. The needs of gifted students stem from their strengths, and helping others to understand that this counterintuitive reality is part of our aim as gifted student support teachers in Colonial. So I wanted to show you a little bit some of the takeaways that we use in Colonial in our classrooms. We are their advocates. We are the warriors. We are their confidants. We are subversive. We are leaders. We're researchers. We are the experts, our allies. Often might personally be a burr in somebody's saddle, often a little voice in the back of teachers' minds or a steady presence, just there to be an inspiration or an invaluable resource for our kiddos and to advocate for them within the classroom, without the classroom, all the time. And so through that, I wanted to show you 2 ways that we brought from the conference, but also that we are doing within the classroom already in Colonial. So the first part is depth and complexity. I use this every day in multiple ways, but the goal is to modify learning objectives for students to require higher, more complex levels of cognition to move students toward expert knowledge of content. Experts know things like repeating patterns, required rules, ethical dilemmas, changes over time, and essential vocabulary within their field. The depth and complexity framework is a great strategy that we can use for differentiation for gifted learners. It's not a program, but it's a way of teaching students how to think for themselves. I always start this slide with my kiddos, and I always say, what do you see? And we talk about it. What do you see? They see the ocean. But how do we dig deep? And we start digging deep, whether we go deep into the ocean, into the depth, moving students toward greater expertise and striking a balance with the goal of the content coverage. I see could hydrates or ice crystals that form in the ocean one day provide energy for us. Our 3rd graders are studying this right now, clean energy, green energy. Are there trends in the occurrence of tsunamis worldwide? And then we dig deeper, but then we get even more complex, studying something over time, looking at it from many perspectives, finding connections across multiple disciplines. For instance, discovering a Fibonacci connection to seahorses, always a favorite. Exploring how seahorses are used in medicine, or in what ways are seahorses depicted in mythology. We can get into that, but that's a whole nother conversation. Its purpose is to move our students from thinking like beginners to thinking more like experts, not just knowing more, but thinking differently.
Awesome. So the second prong that the conference really focused on was really about choice. And at the end of the day, that boils down to differentiation. And so when we talk about choice for gifted learners, it's not a complete free-for-all all the time where kids are just getting to choose whatever they want, whenever they want. But it really comes down to structured choice and kind of helping guide kids towards the runway that we want them to land on, but allowing them different options in how they eventually land the plane. And we do this because research consistently shows kids are more motivated, they're more engaged, and they're just more passionate and invested and empowered in what they're learning. So differentiation is obviously nothing new to the district. It's something that we obviously practice a ton in gifted class, but something that general education teachers are also doing in their classes. I think a lot of the time, differentiation is sometimes associated with the end product that students are creating. Teachers do a really good job, I think, of, if students are working on a project, giving them an option to do something visually if they're more artistic, giving them an option to build or create something if they're more hands-on, giving them more, if they're more verbal, an oral presentation or a written response, whatever it may be. But I think the cool thing about this conference, they really dug into differentiation across the board. So how can we encourage kids to pursue different topics or content areas that they're interested in, and get them involved in research? In terms of the process, something I really like to do in class, I like to be quiet and I like giving kids the chance to teach each other and really encourage that peer-to-peer learning. So allowing them to research things that they're passionate about and then share their knowledge and engage the class in discussion in that way. And then differentiation through learning environment as well. How can we get the kids beyond the four walls of a classroom and really get them to connect what they're learning with the real world? So there are a bunch of different types and ways to differentiate in the classroom. These were some of the resources that were focused on at the conference. I've definitely seen and used things like these in our district. But what was really great about the conference, especially as a newer teacher, they offered really tangible resources. They offered templates to a lot of these resources that we can personalize and inject our own content in different ways. So I'm sure a lot of these things sound familiar, but I found that, kids like having control. They like feeling that independence. And so any way we can kind of offer and curate that experience and environment for them in the classroom has been really beneficial. So there's a lot of text here, and I won't go through all of this, but there's always some clear signs that differentiation is happening in the classroom. I think the big thing that I've realized in middle school, especially again as these kids are taking on a new era of independence, they love to negotiate and they're good at it. And so I found that not being so rigid in what I'm asking them to produce, or being clear on what the expectations are, but giving them the space to kind of come back based on what they're interested in. And if they're like, well, I don't feel like researching this, but can I go deeper in this area? Letting them feel empowered to kind of explore in the ways that they want to. And I think the other clear sign that differentiation is working in the classroom is the kids feel excited to come to class and they're excited about what they're working on. Kids coming in and being like, oh, are we working on this project that we started on Monday? It's fun. And I'm like, wow, you remember what we did on Monday? That's great. So I think that's a really clear sign that engaging with kids in a way that's more individualized and personalized, it just resonates with them and it makes them excited to learn and kind of take things in the direction they want to. So yeah, those were the two big focal areas of the conference. Any questions? Yes?
Not a question, but just a comment. I just want to applaud you both and say thank you for having the high expectations for our diverse learners who need to be challenged and need that constant person, reminding everyone to keep doing that. So thank you for doing that.
All right, and Mr. Merck is going to close us out for the evening.
Good evening, everybody. And we have the best for last. Jill, our math department head from the high school, Jill, is going to talk about a conference that she and 3 of our K-8 math liaisons attended. And she'll give you the details of the conference, but the one powerful thing about all 4 of them going together is the vertical articulation they can kind of put together as they're going through the conference and reviewing how they're going to show it to the teachers after the fact. So,
Perfect.
Ms.
Thank
Ruggiero.
you. Yes, the
thank
oldest
you.
for last? I don't know. Like, which was it? I
The
feel
best.
like, oh my goodness. Thank you for allowing me to come tonight. I appreciate it. I'm the math department head at the high school, but more importantly is I still teach at the high school. I'm very proud to do that. And I was lucky to attend this conference. A little bit geeking out as Robert Kaplinski is great. And yes, I don't really stay on social media, but I do follow him, and he was a math teacher, and now he likes to teach math teachers. So he loves to train. It's a passion of his. And he really was focusing on, in this conference, there are 4 different pathways that he feels that he can get students excited about mathematics. And he wrote a book and is very passionate about what he calls open middle problems. So this particular conference was on open middle problems, and he was there. It was just very cool to meet him, and I would love to go to any conference that he would present in the future. So I was able then to turn this conference and what I learned around at the Best Practices Fair and in our department meetings. I know Gina did the same. So I'm very excited and was happy to do that. Okay, I can use the scroll button. Yeah, all right, perfect. That was just my power slide of just me turning the training around to the teachers at the Best Practices Fair. And what we had them do then was to then start to create open middle problems that they would be able to use immediately with their students. And hopefully they got a lot out of that. The feedback was very good. So again, he has 4 themes that he always talks about. Again, this conference was on open middle problems, which are today's focus. You have all been saved of not doing math problems tonight. I was told I had to stay to 10 minutes. I was having the calculators, the scrap paper, the pencils. It was all going to be out. But I just wanted you to take a look. This is the old faithful worksheet of solving one-step equations, a single variable. And so that's the kind of thing where I think we may or may not have all kind of grown up with. And it's just very rote, just keep repetition. And after the students solve that worksheet, they feel very proud. And it's like, but what do they really know? You know, what do students really know? And so I just want to point out a problem for you. It's just a very basic 21 plus x equals 70, solve for x. It's an important concept. You need to be able to solve for an unknown variable. And just a very level 1 basic problem, solve for x, what we saw on that previous worksheet. Problem 2, if I had you solving this, I just want you to take a second to read it. I will read it to you. If you were using the digits 1 to 9, at most 1 time each, fill in the boxes to create 2 different equations, one where x has a positive value and one where x has a negative value. Not having you do it, but think about it. A little bit more difficult than the problem you just solved, right? How about this one now? Using the digits 1 to 9, at most 1 time each, fill in the boxes to create an equation where x has the greatest possible value. I see you're all thinking. I like, right? I mean, it's cool, right? So level 3, now we're thinking. It's just getting a little deeper. The level 2 problem, students have conceptual understanding if they just realized they could have swapped the numbers. Did you maybe realize that? I think maybe Mr. Winchester's nodding. Yes, good. So, you know, if a student, this problem could have replaced that entire first worksheet that I showed you a few slides ago. And it gets students talking. It gets them excited, wanting to learn math. And the good thing about problems like this is any student in the classroom can jump into a problem like this, even though it is higher level. Guess and check is great. when you're hearing kids talk about things like that. So I just want you to ponder just for a second to take a guess. What percentage of students, 1,200 middle school students were randomly polled? What percent of students do you believe got problem number 1 correct? What do you think? Just 75%? Okay, that's great. And then what percent of students do we feel got problem 2 correct? Mrs. Petrino, what do you think compared to the 75%? Are you going higher or are you going lower? I'll go lower. You're going lower, okay. Give me a number. Okay, 75, we got 50, we went lower. Is everyone in agreement that it should be lower? More students would get problem 2 correct than problem 1. Do you think it would go higher or lower? Let's remember problem 1. Problem 2, do you think more students would get problem 2 correct or less? Less students. Yes, so we're going lower. Okay, just wanted to just revisit. Okay. All right. Where are our gifted teachers? Where did they go? Come on. All right. Problem 3. Problem 3. Mr. Carpenter, what do we think now? We were at 75%, 50%. Problem 3, what do we think? You're not getting it all wrong. There is no right or wrong. Come on, everybody's in. What do we think?
I'm going to go with slightly lower.
Okay, but still just slightly lower, but still lower. Okay, I applaud you all, right? No, yes, it is correct. Problem level 1 type of problem, more students are able to get. And I just want to show you. Here are the results. From the 1,200 middle school students that were given these 3 problems, 92% went to 51%, so 50%, and then 37%, all right? This isn't really the slide, though, that gives us the best information. This is the slide that gives us the best information. Because that red 41% of students, does anybody, you want to think about who they are? They're the kids that we thought knew what they were doing, but really don't truly understand how to solve for a single variable. That 41% of students fooled us a little bit, or they were fooled, right? So we have a misconception, and we need to reach those 41%, and then ultimately the difference between the 41 and the 50, the 14% then that dropped off, like Mr. Winchester said, it's a little bit smaller, because if you kind of got 2, then you probably got 3, but maybe a little bit less did, or they were getting tired, who knows? But so yes, so it was a decline, but we really want to get to that 41%. We don't want to lose them. Okay, so that I think is the most, that's the false positives that we didn't want to have. And with these problem 2 and problem 3 are what Robert Kaplinski calls open middle problems. And accessibility to all students is key. It's the accessibility. And when we're able to get more students accessible to the math and able to get into those math problems, it triggers more communication and just an excitement to learn and be there. So what he did was he shared, and from us attending the conference, he shared all of his resources. There is there's not an unlimited amount, but there are too many problems that we would even have time for in our school year, or even time to look at. I can get lost in his website, quite frankly, with all of these different things that he has available to us. I just quickly put them on, but you can see basically from just solving a one-step equation down to logs and calculus and integrals. So it gets very complex and it gets very exciting. I've done it with my integrated 5H students. They love the dialogue and the competition. The competition is key in that classroom. Gina Nelson has shared with us, and what's exciting about this is she's able to bring in complex or compound fractions. This is just one example that she's using in her 7th grade math classroom. for me, I teach 5H, and it's pretty much pre-calculus. Complex or compound fractions are a very crucial step in my math course. So they're seeing at the 7th grade math level what then they're going to have to see again, and it's going to come around when they hit the high school. So that's really important. Just rates of change along those lines. And then I just wanted toward the end to share out with you just some teacher testimonials, what they got from leaving the best practices fair and just working together. There were teachers from elementary all the way through high school at that session, and then just some feedback that we've received since that best practices fair and or those department meetings. One of the teachers said, I decided to try an open middle problem today. It was going awesome. Every single kid's working on it. Many are using whiteboards. They're asking for more time. I mean, students don't really usually ask for more time on a warm-up or things like that. So it's exciting, and it's always nice to hear back from teachers how excited they were that we were able to turn it around to them. So I thank you for sending us, and I will always be following him. He's very, very dynamic and pretty cool guy. So thank you. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. Obviously with the open middle questions, it's almost like, how are we working with the parents to give this home? They don't understand what's happening. Like, is it worksheets or is it like send them to the website just so they can kind of get a glimpse?
We haven't.
Oh, sorry.
How have we introduced open middle problems to parents?
Right, so that they can move along with like assisting or whatever. Like, hey, what's your homework tonight? Oh, I like to, because sometimes for Isaac, I mean, I do that, but I don't have that problem.
I guess one of the best things about it is that it could be accessible to anybody. I would assume that a parent might start guessing and checking, right? Or working with their student to do that. The way that I've been seeing these open middle problems assigned or used in the classroom are more of a warm-up, like a kickstart, or something that a teacher has used after they have done a lesson and now it's an extension. I don't necessarily believe that it's something the kid is going to be tested on, having to solve an open middle on an assessment, but it's more a catalyst to allow them to conceptually understand the end result. That's not a great answer, though. It would be nice for parents to be able to help their students more from home. And if we could do that better, maybe that's something that we could share with our parents more so. I think Canvas, quite frankly, has enabled, across the district, and I have more parents reaching out to me saying, thank you so much for having your answer keys up, for having these. We always put up blank copies, answer keys, handwork things out for our students, and I do always get very appreciative emails back from students. We could start putting things up like this, like warm-ups. I can talk to the department if they would add. We do warm-ups or extension problems if they would add that on their Canvas pages as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's helpful because, I mean, obviously we know the summertime's coming and kids don't want to spend a lot of time on something, but if you had a couple of these, you throw them in once a week, it'd keep them fresh. But it's not so cumbersome like you have this whole worksheet to do. It's like,
no one wants that whole worksheet to do.
No, not at all.
Especially not in the summer.
And the parents and grandparents that are watching them don't want to.
Yeah, definitely not.
To follow up on that, the website we get these problems from have solutions with hints and kind of like instructions you can follow to kind of guide students. So if you're interested, let me know. I can show you the website.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
I guess my question is more global. Does our math curriculum from the younger grades lead into thinking, like not just knowing 7 times 7 is whatever, but how? I mean, I've seen some things, but with what Jill just presented, not Jill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm Jill.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Does our middle school curriculum sort of do more of this in our like K-5 curriculum, like encourage the kids to think sort of out in these ways?
Yes, when just the names of our core resources, even though we're not tied to the core resource, kind of says that. Like we have investigations in K3, we have connected math concepts in 6-8. So when when you look at just those names of those resources, yes, we are embedding those types of skills into our instruction.
For me. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. You're welcome.
I told you.
And again, I would like to reiterate what Jill said. We would like to thank the board for the continued support of allowing our teachers to attend these conferences, for their leadership, their excitement, as you heard, and their commitment to the Colonial School District. So we appreciate your support as well. Our next slide in our agenda, all of the trainings that you see listed here are mandated by the state of Pennsylvania. They are separate apart from our Colonial professional learning opportunities that we provide. They are important and they're vital, and we're not saying that they're not, to the growth of our teachers and our staff. They ensure that we all have access to professional learning opportunities, enhance our skills, knowledge, effectiveness in the classroom, schools, and our district level. Ultimately, it benefits our students and community without a doubt. However, they are increasing year after year. And just this past year, the state added 3 of these on there. So our safety and security under Act 55, our culturally relevant and sustaining education guidelines, as well as our structured literacy practices. Those are 3 new ones that the state has mandated for this year. So we just wanted to share tonight that, we do indeed value these trainings, but we wanted to express that within the professional development time and our PLT time that we have offered throughout the year, all of these must take place as well. So while you heard about some professional learning that took place tonight, these are the other end of that are mandated by the state of Pennsylvania. And if anybody wants to talk further about all that, we can, and we can gladly share a lovely document that the IU put together for all of us. Any questions about the mandated? Yes. Chris.
So they added 3, but then how do we give more, do we allocate more professional development time for
So
the
we
teachers,
have been working, we have the 3 hours during our PLT time throughout the year, as well as our professional development time. So we work very well with our building administrators, with our teachers, to find appropriate times for this. Yes, but we may have to look at increasing professional development time as well. Yeah, it's a lot.
Because they don't take anything away from the public.
Correct. Correct. Yep.
Does the state provide resources and/or funding for any of this, or do they just say do it?
They typically provide resources in the way of guidelines, frameworks, rarely funding. Yeah. Any other question on that? Okay.
Actually, just a
Sure.
thought. Is it, I imagine these are going to just continue to grow over time. Are there ways that we could think about providing, I don't want to call it comp time or pay, like after school pay for you do this on your own? We imagine these 4 will take about 2 hours. Here's 2 hours worth of pay. Have we considered that?
We have considered that, and we are in conversation about that, and we're probably going to share that with you on Thursday.
Okay. All right.
But more to come is with that, so we're going to explain a little bit more about that to the board.
Okay.
Yes. And I did not plant that, I promise to anybody. So the last part of our evening, second to last, I apologize, is our curriculum review cycle. Again, this is our final CCOB meeting for the year. We typically do this at the end of the year. We want to make sure that you and our community know where we are with our continuous improvement plans for each of our curricular areas. The most significant benefit that we find of our curriculum review cycle, it supports that continuous improvement model, the mission of the Colonial School District. which is for our students to learn, serve, and grow in a school community that's welcoming for all. And by regularly reviewing and updating our curriculum, we're ensuring that we're providing our students the best possible education. So tonight, each of our supervisors are going to share with you which content areas are in stages 1 and 2 and the work that has been done so far in each stage with their supervision and where we're going next. Melissa will then wrap up because as you see, or it's still on this slide too, but as you see, our curriculum cycle, we've spoken with the board over the past several years that our equity, inclusion, and belonging are very important to every single stage of our curriculum development. We do not just consider that a separate entity. It is within everything we do in the district. So we're going to hear from them as well. So Maria, I think you're first.
I will quickly review the 4 stages of the curriculum cycle just as a refresher. I do believe that we did address this a little bit earlier in the year at one of our previous curriculum committee of the board meetings, but it's been a minute. So as Mrs. Grigaitis had mentioned, typically most of our curriculum lives in stages 3 and 4, meaning that they're being implemented or they're having some slight revisions. And this is also reflective of our district budget as well, because when curricula are in stages 2 and 3, that's also when we're revising our resources. Now, we don't use textbooks like we used to anymore because they've become a thing of the past, but we do have licenses and things like that for different resources that might have some sort of a fiscal implication. So we have to make sure that we're pacing it out because we don't want to be doing everything at once and then overloading our financial department. So we do have a responsibility in making sure that we're coming and revisiting these in different time patterns so that we can budget accordingly. That being said, most of the curriculum work is done in stages 2 and 3, and a stage does not necessarily mean a year. A stage can mean 6 months, a year, or even 2 years. And in stage 1 in particular, that is where we are doing a lot of fact checking and we are looking for good resources. We are looking at new standards that might be coming about or national standards as well. And we're kind of consolidating everything and looking at our past practices and looking for where we might need to make some changes and shifts. And then once we do that, we're actually going and doing our curriculum writing. And here in Colonial School District, the curriculum writing is done by the teachers that are teaching the course. And in particular, if it is a common course that multiple teachers are teaching, we like to have many members to be contributing to the writing. And we use the Understanding by Design framework, which has us go through several components where we look at big ideas, state standards, and how we're going to be assessing our students to make sure that they've mastered the standards that are needed for them to achieve what they need to for that particular course. So I can speak to my particular areas, and then my colleagues will speak to theirs as well. And as I presented to you guys on the STEEL standards earlier this year, science right now is under a lot of curricular writing components due to the new STEEL standards being implemented for the upcoming school year. Luckily, K through 5 was already done last school year because we have been working towards NGSS for the past 3 years. And so K through 5 is already completely aligned to Pennsylvania state standards. But we are looking at 6 through 8, and we are looking at specific courses right now at the high school level. So at the middle school level currently, for grade 6 only in science, we are in curriculum writing, and we will be starting stage 2 curriculum development for this summer. The reason why we're not doing 7 and 8 right now is because we want to make sure that each student is able to still achieve each of the standards. And if we were to change all 6 through 8 in 1 year, students in 7th grade and 8th grade would be missing standards because of the previous years that they did not have exposure to. So we're rolling it out over the course of 3 years. So this year the focus will be grade 6, next year will be grade 7, and then grade 8. So extensive work is being done right now in grade 6 so that we are aligned to SEALs. And then you'll see that each year I will probably be coming back to you telling you about the next grade level that we will be looking at. Additionally, in science, for physics and chemistry, we will be doing curriculum writing this summer. Our teachers have been looking at resources all year long and been looking during PLT, talking to each other and looking at our common assessments, and we're ready to start writing and making our revisions. So using what we've learned with regards to three-dimensional science learning and phenomena, we'll be applying those principles and the STEEL standards and rewriting our curriculum so that we're more current and updated and applying new resources to our content. So that is for science. I can speak to at the high school level, we are looking at the courses that are also impacted by STEELs because we do have our technology courses, and those are related to STEELs because the engineering and design practice applies to them. And so for those particular courses at the middle school level, We're looking at our computer science. We're in stage 1 right now, and we will be in stage 2 for one of our 3 elective courses. And we're also looking at our engineering courses at the middle school as well to be entering stage 2. So there'll be changes there. And then lastly, in EDI, the art department at the high school is in the middle of curriculum writing. They've been doing work all year during PLT, so we have a little bit of curriculum writing for stage 2 this summer. That's it.
So in stage 1 for English language arts across the district, because we need to balance, again, that financial responsibility that we have to make sure that we're not adopting too many resources at one time, a number of those allocations have gone to structured literacy, which we've spoken about at previous board meetings. So at the K through 5 level, that has really been the focal point in stage 1, moving into stage 2, and developing what that curricula looks like. At the high school level, we're looking at our junior and senior level courses, as well as a few elective classes to make some revisions. Those are all firmly in stage 2, which means that teachers have already done a lot of those gap analyses to see what is it that students may be missing, what perspectives might need to be added in core texts, as well as modes of analysis. So teachers are working over the summertime to consider those. From the social studies perspective, we're in stage 2 with AP World, AP African American Studies, as well as our sequence change, which kicks into gear next year. So we had previously discussed at another board meeting that we'll be switching American history from 9th grade to 11th grade. 9th grade will now be modern world history. So the teachers have worked very tirelessly to make that work in a really effective way, leveling the content appropriately, examining a number of different texts and resources for it. And that will begin this current academic year upcoming. Stage 1, we have English language development, and that is going hand in hand at a K-12 level with the work that we're partnering with Temple University for. So right now we're undergoing a gap analysis, taking a look at current best practices and seeing how we can better include our learners of multilingual learners of English into all of our classrooms. We're also doing a lot of work with library, particularly at the middle level where we're leading that initiative, to do a gap analysis, really hyper-focusing on research and ensuring that there's a clear continuum K through 12 for understanding how to access resources reliably, engage in digital citizenship in a way that is meaningful, and then parlay all of those skills into every discipline that students may experience over time. And then the last component I wanted to go over was the social studies integration at the elementary level, because our shared resource is now in full implementation, which is Benchmark Workshop. And at the 4-5 building, Wonders, we're taking a look at that during the summertime at both of those scopes and sequences to make sure that our standards are aligned to all of the current social studies standards, so we have better reporting on our quarterly report cards.
So for mathematics, our K-8 grade level resources our K-8 courses are currently teetering between stage 1 and 2 because we are looking for resources kind of aligned with the philosophy of our district, can be back mapped from our high school courses and support the teaching style that the teachers already have accustomed to and enjoy very much. For music, we are in stage 4. We are specifically evaluating our instruments and their valuation. So for budgeting purposes, from there we will be moving into stages 1 and 2, talking specifically to vertical articulation of the content. And then last is our health curriculum. Right now, our health curriculum is in stage 4. And when I say health curriculum, when I said music, I meant K-12. For health curriculum, this is 4 to 12. What we're doing is evaluating our inclusivity and belonging within certain health content and units.
Good evening, everyone. So as you heard, we are mostly at stage 1 and stage 2 across the content areas, which is a real vital time for us to revisit and further explore the EIB initiative here at the Colonial School District. With that being said, our EIB building leadership teams have been established now for the 2nd school year. We have been involved and immersed with the PSSM now, collecting longitudinal data around our students' sense of belonging for the 2nd school year as well. And this is the 1st school year that we have been fully immersed in CRSE, which was also a mandate from PDE. And with that being said, it's a vital time for our EIB leadership team members, which are represented by pupil services, teachers across content areas, and administrators to now work collaboratively with the curriculum team to deepen our commitment to the EIB initiative here at CSD. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate this, and hearing this as a parent as well as a school board member. I was wondering about the summer reading lists, and is that going to show any reflection of any of the EIB work being done? I have a high schooler, so I'm just thinking about that. Thank you.
Yes, it's an excellent question. So those lists have been published on the website for, I believe, a little over a week now. We had undergone in the past couple of years a real overhaul of what those lists represent. So offering students windows of opportunity into experiences as well as reflections of their own experiences. At the high school level in particular, we've been very attentive to ensuring that students, when they have assigned readings, whether it's for an honors class, AP class, or a college level, college prep level course, that they do have that diversity of text as well. So that's not just for summer, but that's also integrated directly into our scope and sequence. But we do have those as recommended readings for all students, K through 12. So those lists are updated annually in concert with our library team, a reading specialist, and a team of teachers, just to make sure that we have the best selections available, as well as ones that we believe best reflect our community.
I also want to say thank you for leading this work. And I heard several of you mention part of this is to be intentional about not having a financial burden for the district. But I also just want to name, even though you didn't say it, I know it's intentional, to not be a burden for teachers to put too much on their plate and have to implement too many curriculums or too many new resources at the same time. And that can be a lot. So I just want to say thank you for being really intentional about that. On behalf of teachers, because I know, especially with all the ESSER funds, everyone has wanted to use up ESSER funds and buy new this and new that. And I know that's been a lot for teachers across the country. So just thank you again for being intentional there.
All right, thank you. And our final agenda item for today is a conference request form for Beth Lynch. I should have had her stay till the end and explain it to you herself, but that would not have been nice. So Beth is requesting board approval for a conference in September in Los Angeles. It is the National Association for College Admission Counselors. And basically the NACAC conference brings together college admission professionals from around the country to collaborate on various college admission issues and advocacy. She plans to attend professional development sessions relevant to our school population, focusing on areas like college application, essay writing, working with diverse populations, and working with students who are financially challenged. She also plans to learn about various resources and programs at the vendors and college fair that can help make our post-secondary planning program more efficient, effective, and impactful. So that will be an agenda item for the board on Thursday.
Any comments from the board? Any questions?
I just had one quick question in terms of the great job and the enthusiasm of all the teachers that presented tonight. So thank you. General question. So we see they're sort of super enthusiastic and come back from these conferences inspired. So quick question in terms of the readout and socialization of whatever it is that they learn at the conferences. They typically have a forum that they do this in. Do they do it during professional development? Are there other opportunities to do it so they can share with their colleagues?
That's a great question. So yes, as many of them expressed today, sometimes it is at our best practice fair, which we're hoping to have more often than every other year. PLTs provide a wonderful opportunity for them to share within their colleagues. Some of them share at their building level, depending on the specificity of the conference. I'm looking at White Marshes. Thank you, you stayed till the end. So they would share specifically at their building because that is where the population that they serve is at their building. But yes, there's multiple venues and avenues for them to share.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a great idea to sort of ensure some way that they're reading out to share with their colleagues. And then one other comment, a lot of conferences on the heels of COVID and even really prior to COVID, there's often an opportunity where you can get sort of a digital pass, right? So then folks who can't travel, obviously everybody can't travel in the entire district, although, I mean, I don't know, why not? No, right? That you can get a digital pass. And Jill spoke about somebody that really inspires her, right? That folks might not get an opportunity to see that particular professional speak, but could be inspired nonetheless. Is there any sort of activity or thought that goes into finding those types of opportunities so that teachers who are unable to travel for a given year might be able to still be exposed to some of the inspiring, sort of up-to-date, cutting-edge conversations happening externally?
100%. We do have many professionals that do engage in virtual conferences as well. We chose 6 people to highlight, or 6 groups to highlight tonight for our conference session. We have many, many more conferences. Not all of them come to the board because, as the policy dictates, it depends on how far away they are. But the ones that are far away, I think it's 400 miles, right, Nancy? 400 miles or more come through the board. However, we have many other conference opportunities, and many of them are virtual that teachers attend. They fill out a sheet on one of our software programs. It goes through their principal first, they're asked to talk, it goes to their curriculum supervisor, and ultimately to us. And that's how do we decide who goes to the conferences.
Do you have a record of how many annually that you accept and or reject in terms of requests?
I can get those to you, absolutely. We have them all in one data system.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We typically don't reject many, but I can get them to you.
Great. Any other questions from the board or comments? Is there any public comment? Okay. Thank you. Seeing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you to all of our presenters. Thank you to everyone. Have a great night.